present here today. Yes, no. Yes, no, quiet so.
Venerable, I'm going to have my camera off because I'm eating.
That's okay. Sam, did you just get your hair cut?
No, I'm just having a ponytail.
Oh, ponytail. Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah, I tricked you though.
Everyone here has read chapter 3 and 4? Yes? Guess we'll find out sooner or later. This is okay if you didn't. I just want.
No.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
I said no, sir. I did not read it.
Okay. Who's new joining Discord? You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Alex. It's a little loud where I am, but yeah, I'm new to Discord.
Have you studied Buddhism before, Alex?
No, I haven't. No, I'm very much into meditation, though. I've kind of been doing it for the last couple of years now. Just finished reading The Mind Illuminated as well, which I found really interesting. I'm really keen to get more involved.
Oh, okay. Very good. All right, that's Alex. Okay. All right. So with chapter AJ, have you read chapter 3 and 4? AJ Reynolds?
No, sir. I haven't.
Yes.
I didn't. No, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't make it in, so I didn't do it.
You've joined us for a while now, right? So
Yes, sir.
you're able to review chapter 1 and 2 previously?
I did not. I will though tonight later on.
Sure. Martha, were you with us yesterday, Martha?
Yes.
Yeah? All right.
Yeah.
So you want to give us an overview of chapter 3?
For chapter 3, sorry, I'm looking at my notes. I kind of have highlighted about the ABC form and how it kind of goes in depth on how to explain each part. And there's 2 different types of forms. The form 1 is kind of more the basic form of ABC, and then ABC form 2 is kind of what it leads off to being more in depth, and how you can kind of start, I guess, going to the deeper stuff on what's going on with the, what you're trying to do, or how, or what the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry if I just
Sam, you've read chapter 3 and 4. You wanted to share today?
Yeah, I wanted to share a little bit today.
Go ahead.
For example, this is my ABC form 1.
Sure. Why don't you take the floor since you haven't spoken for a good minute?
Sure, why not? All right. So for the ABC form, I actually, first of all, it took me a little while to figure out what I wanted to put down. So I actually decided to put down experience that happened to me, which is kind of how me and you met, Cheeto, about the experience with the dojo that I had. So I basically used that as like an to the test run for ABC form.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, they said activating event for what was happening. It was like sparring, and it was like into that dojo visiting different dojo, Florida to up here, and so like the teacher was very like glorifying me to like all the students. So I guess kind of triggering some of their egos. And so when it was time for like sparring, a lot of them were really, it wasn't sparring anymore. It was turning to fight pretty much. So my emotion was when I was starting to get triggered and angry. So I basically picked myself and I put some of them down. And so what was going to my mind was if I didn't do something that I was going to basically get injured. So I did what I had to do. And that was my thought process. However, what I think was the error was kind of maybe generalized because some maybe like 2 or 3 more like that, and I generalized that for so I think like how I had the image of the sheep, the one black sheep and the others were white. So I think I generalized it too much for like everyone. I just went savage on everyone. And then that was like, then I got like a wrong view for a lot of the students. So me, the teacher was just like, "Oh yeah, good job." But everyone else was like, "This guy's a douchebag."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. David, were you able to do the ABC form or give us an example of an experiment that you have conducted? We can't hear you. You're muted.
I have not. I am. I'm sorry.
Okay. We got IR34 joining us. IR34, you're pretty new to our Discord, right?
Yeah.
Can you please introduce yourself just a little bit, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, and how you discovered us?
Sure. My name is Adam. I found this through TikTok. I'm 14. Not sure what else to say.
You're a big gamer, huh?
Yeah, I really like it.
You want to battle right now?
No, I think I'm good.
I'll grab my my controllers right over there. It's about 10 feet away from me. I'm just kidding. Anything stressing you out, Adam, in life right now? Mom, parents, friends, school, teachers?
Mostly just schoolwork.
14 and you're in this Discord server. That's impressive. Because when I was
I'm excited.
Yeah, because when I was 14, all I was thinking about is getting into trouble with the law. Very good. Well, we welcome you. We welcome you. This is cognitive behavioral therapy. It basically teaches you you think the way how you feel the way how you think, leading to the behaviors that you do, or all of us do. We do. And so, Alex, you are new on here, and David is quite fairly new. So we got 3 people that's new. I think Bubble Masters joined us a while back. I remember that screen name. And how does this relate to Buddhism, and how does this relate to meditation? It is my standpoint that we first have to understand our mind as effectively as possible using the best available science. That will clear the way for us to sit and meditate. If we just go ahead and walk into Buddhism and meditation teachings that is 2,565 years ago, it wouldn't make sense much to people in the West. And when they sit, they would just recycle the past or start imagining things that could happen in the future and not knowing what to do. So therefore, it's my approach, since I've gone through CBT, extensively researched CBT myself, have seen results for myself. I now bring to the world the Cbt Methods, which is this book right here, which is available free on PDF. If you send me your email, you can get this on Amazon or Thrift Books. They're like $24. It's by Wilson and Branch. It's Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. Right now, we're on chapter 3 and 4, which is designing the experiment. Okay, so ABC form means A is the activating events, things that happen right in front of our eyes, you know, like your girlfriend not texting you back, your parents not picking up the phone, your teacher's telling you need to turn in homework tomorrow. Those are activating events, or someone cutting in front of you in front of traffic. The B is beliefs, our attitudes, beliefs, things that, you know, we were brought up, grown up, what we have seen and truly believe, our core beliefs. You know, I believe that people should not cut in front of others in front of traffic because that's rude and they should be punished. I believe that my girlfriend should text me back right away because that just gives rise to sketchiness. Like, why are you so sketchy? Then the C is consequences, which is you acting out. Someone cuts in front of you in front of traffic, and we flip out. We grab our 38 caliber and we're like, you know what? I feel like being a judge today. Shoot this guy's tires out. So that's the ABC model. In chapters 3 and 4, they ask you to write these things down, and the diagram is pretty much what you see here on my screen. Okay, A is activating events, B, and then C. So for people who are new joining us, have anyone done the ABC form? They would like to share their experiments with us. I'll give 6 seconds for people to think, 6-7 seconds. If not, I'll go on with my examples. Okay. Val, you want to give an example, Val?
I can think of 2 things. So my past 2 interviews, I'm just pretty much to the point this year where I'm like, if you don't like me, you don't like me. I'm not going to pretend to be somebody I'm not anymore to make people feel comfortable. You know, your whatever your issues are internally with your self-esteem, that those are your issues. Those are not my issues. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm getting back to who I really am, and I'm standing strong in that and confident in that. So in my last 2 interviews, I'm like, I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be, you know, giggly and kind of funny and, you know, just intelligent and just myself. I'm not going to pretend to be somebody I'm not anymore. And I was like, you know, thinking, well, people, they're probably not going to receive me well. And that wasn't the case. I felt like I was very much well received. Another kind of experiment was, so recently at the meditation center, the woman that is leading our book club, I don't know if I have the book over here. Oh, this is what we're reading. So this is another book I recommend to you guys. It might be a little higher level, but once I've read it, you can ask me questions. It's called Living Beautifully with Uncertainty and Change, and it's by Pema Chodron. She is a Tibetan Buddhist nun, and she is phenomenal. Her work is just wonderful, very wise. But in our book club, the woman who's leading said to keep our answers concise. So if we were going to comment on something that we read, to keep it short. And I was all like, in my head, I was like, y'all should just call me out like by name, because I know you guys are talking about me. But, you know, I was just like, so what? Like, they're not saying your name, even though you know it's you. all you can do is just, follow along with what the teacher has requested. And again, I was well received when I kept my answers concise. It also challenged me to be mindful in my speech and to let the ego go of being right. So that's what I would say my 2 experiments have been. I didn't write them down, but I was kind of thinking of that first example where I'm like, you know what, I'm going to show up as me and I want to see how I'm received. Instead of thinking of that belief of, you're not going to like me, I'm going to be too much. Well, if I'm too much for people, that's not my problem. That's yours. I am too much and I like it. I'm goofy, I'm weird, I'm silly. I'm a nerd and I'll always be a nerd and I'll die a nerd. So those are my examples, Venerable.
So on chapter 3, it talks about using these forms as thought records, thought diaries, thought daily records of dysfunctional thoughts, or dysfunctional thought records, DTRs. And this is why part of my program is everyone should be keeping a journal so that you can track yourself, track your thoughts, track your feelings, reduce your thoughts and feelings down to writing. It's very therapeutic. It's also something called narrative exposure therapy. I survived through the first 10 years of my natural living life by keeping a journal. Those journals are about 100 feet away from me still. And I had a conversation with myself because I didn't fit in, being this Asian kid in America trying to assimilate. I didn't fit in, trying to adapt, just trying to make sense of my world. And so I would write down, how school sucked and how things were chaotic. Aww. Yeah, how things were chaotic in my life. So really, I prevented a lot of acting out by writing things down. However, comes modern day, when we write things down, we're more psychologically organized. We realize what's going on in our life, what we need to do, what we haven't done. We start to see patterns and consistencies of, if you're sleeping 12 hours for 3 days straight, hopefully you see that when you write it down. Dear journal, I went to sleep at 3 a.m. and I woke up at 6 p.m. And you wrote that for 4 times in a week. Well, hopefully you catch it and you realize maybe this is not healthy. Maybe these are signs and symptoms of depression. So the journal helps you see things because we are blind to us and we are blind to ourselves. So when you look at page 43 on chapter 3 on the 3rd edition, I'm not sure what page on the 1st edition, but, dysfunctional thought records, so don't take these words so heavily. Some of these words could mean differently to people. The word dysfunctional can mean unhealthy thought records. Okay. And I know you guys are very smart. I don't think I've ever had a dumb student. And so intelligent students, smart students, they think very fast. And they're like, oh, I get it. And then they don't write it down. And then they make mistakes. And then they're mad at themselves for making the mistakes. Okay. A lot of people write things down. Doctors write things down. Nurses write things down. Police officers write things down when they're interviewing you. Blood pressure, oxygen level, A1C levels and stuff like that. Police officer, when he's doing an field interview, what you tell him is evidence. So if he misses a word or something, it won't hold up in court. Then you get to run around free and go steal your candy bar again. So you got to see that professionals use the art of writing to keep themselves organized, easily recall things, and measure your own progress, measure your own spiritual progress. So, you want to be able to say, well, this is where I was before starting the book. And this is after finishing the book. These are the changes that I have noticed within myself. So it's my heavy and strong encouragement that you guys keep a journal and just have fun with it. There's no right or wrong way to write a journal. You just spill your guts out in it. And no one has to read it. You don't have to share it. But it's just something for you to just track yourself. Again, in a day, we have 70,000 separate thoughts. And the question is, well, how many of them did you actually catch? It's like fishing, right? You throw the hook down and you have no idea what you're catching. So okay, let me see here. When you guys go through chapter 3 or go back to it, okay, you guys want to learn some of these vocabularies that we were never taught in school. The vocabularies of labeling our feelings, labeling our behaviors, and our thoughts. You know, we don't know what to think. When we act out, it's like, yeah, I told you not to put this toilet seat down. And then we just take something and chuck it at the wall. What is that? What is anger? Okay. What is the definition of anger? What is the definition of jealousy? What is the definition of guilt? What is the definition of hurt? So there is the scientific and psychological study of emotions. Actually, a free course on Yale, and it helps to look at these things and ask yourself, you know, what is anger? What does it mean to be angry, and how do I know when I get angry? Typically there's changes in the body, like the breathing, and then there's the trembling of the hands, the sweaty palms, and then steam start to come out of your ears. Well, at least for me. And then you start to lose your cool very quickly. You can't think straight, and then next thing you know, you're chugging something at the wall. So when we are able to label and understand the definition of these list of emotions, examples of emotions, it helps us write a little bit better, more honest to ourselves, and relatable to the ABC form. Likewise, when it talks about the consequences and behavior of acting out, also learn the list and descriptions and adjectives of behavior, which is avoiding something, becoming withdrawn, isolated, or inactive, being aggressive, binge eating, restricting food intake, escaping from a situation, putting off something, which is procrastination, seeking reassurance, taking drugs or alcohol, you using safety behavior such as holding on to something if you feel faint. Okay. Do we have any questions so far? Because I know I was going a little accelerated there.
I was actually gonna say I actually registered for that course that you mentioned last night. It looks really fun. It's a lot of the teachers seem really nice, and it seems really doable. So I'm already on the first week. It's really cool. I appreciate you telling me about it.
Yeah. When we'll get there. What Martha's referring to is the scientific study of well-being, which is positive psychology, also known as studying happiness. It's a free course offered by Yale by Professor Laurie Santos. That link has been shared. I think it's in the links. But these are some trying times in our world where things are negative. So yesterday during my talk, I said, well, if things are just going downhill, in 2013, for me, it was the financial and economic depression. And it's like when your society is depressed, you will be depressed. And it just so happens to be during those times where I think I was in college. And I was like, well, if everyone is so depressed right now, maybe I should study the total opposite of that, which is happiness. And I went in the Barnes and Noble section and I was like, oh my goodness, there's so many books on happiness. By Dr. Ian Smith is one of them. And I was just like, what is it about this? Are you kidding me? I gotta read a book on happiness. What is happiness? We actually don't know what happiness is. We don't. I mean, some people I don't know, smoke weed all day long and that's happiness to them. Some people go fishing every single day. Yes.
Venerable, I wanted to say about happiness. I think what we know is we know the opposite, which essentially, I mean, you could say is suffering, but we know attachment, right? We know possessions, we know ownership. I was talking to Eric, my partner, and I said, essentially, you don't own a home. Think about it. The bank can take your home at any time that they want. You don't own the property. I'm renting an apartment right now. this is not mine. The bank could literally come in and say, you know what, we're taking this over and we're going to sell it to somebody. They literally could do that. So I think a lot of Americans, including myself, however, I've come to a point where I'm like, I don't really own anything. Somebody could come into my apartment and take everything I have, and then I don't have anything. So I think for us in general here in America, it's like we think, well, ownership is going to bring me happiness. You know, like for me, it was like, oh, I'm going to get a newer car and that's going to make me happy. It's temporary. It's essentially impermanence and to like, I guess a certain extent, but yeah, I think we actually know the opposite of it. We know the opposite of joy. We know the opposite of happiness. And yeah, I think you're definitely right, Venerable.
So we'll get to that. I just want to stay on point with chapter 3 so we don't run all over the place here. In your furthermore, in the thinking error box, you know, how we think our erroneous beliefs, ask yourself, am I jumping to the worst possible conclusion? Am I thinking in extremes? Am I predicting the future instead of waiting to see what happens? Am I focusing on the negative and overlooking the positive? So, you know, like an example of, you know, you text your girlfriend or your boyfriend and they don't text back right away. And then we're just like, well, this is odd behavior. This has never happened before. What are they doing? And it's obviously break time right now. I'm expecting a text back. I'm expecting a call. You know, he or she does work with some really good looking people. All right. And then we start playing fortune telling without any evidence to back it up. So obviously there's multiple thinking errors in that scenario that I gave. This is one scenario that I gave. I had a student told me the other day, I was like, he said, yeah, you know, what's his name? Is tripping. He thinks I stole his weed. We were in the same car together. I was like, oh goodness. I have all these young students, right? And this is what happens in a young student's life. They're in the car together, rolling a joint. There's a bunch of weed. No one knows who's who because they're all high. And then when they get out of the car, somebody accuses somebody, he took my weed. It died. This is the joy of being a spiritual teacher, is I die when I hear stuff like this. And it's like, well, what evidence? Like, and then I have to break them apart and I have to ask them, like, let's slow down for a second. Has he ever stole weed from you before? What makes you think he stole your weed? I mean, he got his own money to buy weed. His weed's probably better than yours. All right. So that's the chapter 3. Let me see here. Page 51 goes into details. You can see that it is very, very detailed form. You may have to, if you read it, you need to read it again because just look at how detailed that is. Okay. You want to be scientists of your mind. This is part of doing the work. Okay. Don't be the rest of the 99% of people that tells me, I got it. No, you don't. No, you don't. No. Because even I have to go back to the books when I'm in doubt. So unless you practice this every single day, you know, no, you don't get it. People bluff me all the time. And if you want to be, you know, we are training you to be your own psychologist. We are training you to be your own physician of your mind. And so if you want to cure and fix yourself quickly in the times that you need it the most, in the face of adversity, in the face of a breakup, in the face of death, in the face of someone leaving you, in the face of losing everything that you have in your life, everything that you learn here will depend on the ability for you to recollect accurately how you're going to compartmentalize your mind, the different parts of your mind that's making up the construction of your emotion, thus leading to the behavior of acting out, whatever that behavior is. Because resorting to gambling is not healthy. Addiction to drug, sex, alcohol is not healthy. You know, you risk going to jail or wind up in the ER. So it's my encouragement to go back into the ABC form, print it out, draw it, get real experimental with it, and approach it with curiosity. Okay. We are going to move on to chapter 4. Chapter 4 is about designing your own behavioral experiment. So if you designing and conducting behavioral experiment, page 55, describing the problem, formulate your prediction, execute an experiment, examine the results. Okay. Write down the nature of your problem and include your safety behaviors, things you do to try to prevent your feared catastrophe. Phrase the problem in your own words and make a note of how the problem negatively affects your life. Formulate your prediction. Decide what you think will happen if you try out a new way of thinking or behaving in real life. Execute an experiment. Think of a way of putting a new belief or behavior to test in a real life situation. Try to devise more than one way to test out your prediction. So you're learning something new. You're learning to replace old beliefs with new beliefs. So that requires you. I have to help you guys how to think. All right. That's one thing they don't teach you in school, is teaching people how to think about what they've been thinking and their old ways and their old days. And so you're going to have to unlearn things that you have learned growing up. Like I spoke yesterday, growing up, we're like a tape recorder. Oh, I'm supposed to tape record this too, by the way. I don't have my tape recorder. So we grow up and we absorb. We're like the sponge, right? All these things that happen to us, what our grandparents say, what our mom says, our values, what our dad says about things, how we see our world. These things make us believe certain things. And it's like, yeah, I grew up without drinking alcohol, so I don't understand why you are drinking alcohol. I mean, I've never done drugs, so I don't know why you're doing so much drugs. So, these previous held beliefs influence the way how you see people in your life and your relationship. So when it talks about designing these types of experiment, it's exactly that. So we have to try to test out different worldviews, different beliefs, different belief systems, and then put it into action and try to accept certain things that is beyond our control. Trying to put ourselves in other people's shoes instead of a self-centered way of, it's a little control. Most of the things that we grew up with and now how we act out or project our beliefs onto others is an attempt to control due to fear. We are fear-based. Okay. Oh, by the way, any questions so far? 5 more seconds.
Not really a question. I was going to say at the end of what you were saying, that pretty much goes into demands, right? Because cause trauma.
Mm-hmm. I think chapter 2 talks about demands. That's part of the beliefs that falls underneath
Exactly.
the B, which is, let me go back to it.
Venerable, I did want to say one thing, that when we're so focused on others and what other people are doing, we're essentially ignoring what is going on internally with ourselves. Because it's so much easier to be like, oh, well, Sally's doing this and Joe's doing this. And okay, well, what are you doing? Right? So, they're doing stuff after school, but what are you doing after school? Why are you so focused on what they're doing, but you're not concerned with what you're doing in your life? So I think essentially that's codependency. Just because you're so concerned with what everybody else is doing, but you're ignoring, whatever is going on internally or your own issues or problems.
Yes. So back to the ABC formula. A would be what's going on in the world, other people, personal experiences, personal history, the future, the self. Thoughts, underneath thoughts, which is what's in your mind. Attitudes, rules, demands, beliefs, images, and meaning, What does that mean? And then C, which is the consequences, has to do with emotions, healthy feelings, unhealthy feelings, physical sensations. And all these lead to either it will be a constructive action or destructive action. And as I remind you guys, the construction of emotion is not what you think. It is actually based on your prediction. So based on what you guess will happen next is how you construct your emotion. That's about a decade of research right there, just in that sentence. So let that sink in for a second. Next time you get into an argument with someone, just notice how your mind is guessing their next anticipated move and how that makes you angry, because you're already predicting what they're going to say, when in fact they haven't even said it, but you said it for them. I mean, did someone appoint you to be the public defender for free? No salary? Right? And that's how we get high blood pressure, folks. All right. Let me give some examples out of the book. Nadine's afraid of people thinking negatively of her and of being rejected by her friends. In social situations, Nadine monitors her body language and censors what she says, taking great care not to express any strong opinion in case others disagree with her. She often plans in advance what she's going to say. Okay. And then now we formulate a prediction, which is the hypothesis. Nadine predicts, if I express an opinion or disagree with my friends, they'll see me less. She rates her conviction in this idea as 90%. Notice the percentage, okay? When we talk about experiments, in actual real scientific experiments, in experimental designs, is that researchers always use a metric system, a rubric system. That's why they have to study statistics, okay? And this is no different than pain levels when you go to see a doctor, when they're like, you're in pain, great, 1 to 10. 10 extreme, 0 is none. And you tell the doctor, yeah, I fell on, my arm, and my arm feels like a 9 right about now. Can you amputate it? That gives the doctor a sense of your pain level, so he'll administer whatever pain medication necessary to alleviate that right away. Number 3, execute an experiment for Nadine. For the next 6 social gatherings Nadine attends, she decides she'll speak up and try to offer an opinion. If at all possible, she'll find a point on which to disagree with someone. Then we will examine the results. Nadine discovered that no one took exception to her saying more. In fact, 2 friends commented that it was nice to hear more about what she thought about things. Nadine re-rates her conviction in her original prediction as 40%. Okay. So when you have free time, I'd like for you to challenge some of these things. This is a social setting where a lot of people actually have social anxiety. And they're like, well, maybe I shouldn't say anything at all because I don't have no idea what to say. And if I say it, people are going to judge me. But also think about, things that go on in your relationships, how your thought beliefs is preventing you from taking actions, or just kind of sit back because it's safer to sit back. There's plenty of examples on chapter 4 in experimental designs and the 4 elements of doing the experiments. We have any questions so far? Keeping records of your experiments. Okay. So maybe next week when we go into chapter 5, which is quite fairly easy. I'm going to ask if anyone has willfully, knowingly, and intelligently designed any sort of experiment and predictions or hypothesis, and see if they would share it with us. It's all in, it's very detailed thing. So tonight is just a quick overview of that. And we have, what's her name that just joined us? I think she just got off here. Oh, no, there she is. There she is. We actually have a CBT therapist on here. Would you like to please announce your presence?
Hi, this is Nicole.
Nicole is an actual CBT practitioner. Nicole, we're going through designing experiments. Would you like to comment on that? Any addition to knowledge on this subject?
Ultimately, really, I loved how the book explained the experiments. I just tell my clients, like, try it. Like, it may sound crazy, it may sound really difficult, try it. And one thing that I had been kind of commenting on in the group earlier this week was doing the ABC form and going through this process myself has been like an eye-opening experience of, wow, I asked people to do these things. So the ABC form in itself and then adding experiments to it, it's tough. It's hard to do. But I really like how the book explains it. So, and which is pretty much how I give what I tell my clients to do. So
out of all the textbooks, and mind you, a lot of people write on CBT. A CBT textbook, this CBT textbook is no different than your math textbook. That means there's different authors, different master's degree and PhDs in the field that writes it in their way, in their tone, in their how they present things. And I have found, and Nicole will concur, that this is one of the easiest reads in CBT. Because if you are going to read our version of our training of CBT, you would start pulling hair out of your head. Because you'll be like, what are they talking about? What are these words? What do they even mean? Some of these scientific words, they're like master's degree level words. So they've made it, Rena Branch and Rob Wilson made it very fun for us to study and practice CBT. And also there's a workbook that accompanies this also. And I encourage whoever have time and want to play around with CBT and get better at it, is to also get the workbook, because even though it does give you things to do in here, the workbook even expands even further. And what it does is that it, just makes you absorb everything in more. So the fact that Nicole is present speaks volumes. Even practitioners have to refresh and remind themselves to go back to the basics, as it is most effective in bringing the mind under control. And the Buddha says, a mind that has been brought under control, is well attended to, and is well disciplined, does in fact yield great happiness. So we have to use, back 2,500 years ago, they used meditation as a one-pointed concentration technique to calm the mind down. I would really give Mahasi Sayadaw and our one and only historical Gautama Buddha a lot of credit in bringing everyone under control the way that they have, even before CBT came along. Because clearly you guys see, now we have CBT and how tough it is modern day. So much has happened in humanity, and as humans progress and advanced with our minds, our cognitive abilities, we can build planes and we can build computers. We use our computer to build computers, which is our mind. And yet we fail to bring our mind under control the way we would like for it to be in order to yield happiness. So do we have any questions so far about the review of chapter 3 and 4 before we move into Buddhism? Six more seconds. Speak now, forever hold your peace.
Venerable, I would say it's what you were speaking about earlier. Kind of reminds me of like engaged Buddhism. That was one thing I read in the pocket book that Thich Nhat Hanh says. It's just kind of, I'm not sure if that's similar.
Yes. Yeah, Thich Nhat Hanh was a very realistic man. He applied everything that the teachings of the Buddha gave into world life examples. As a matter of fact, I just came across what he just said. Did I write it down? I better write it down. Dang it. Well, basically, he says everyone is, but that's for therapists. Never mind. It wouldn't. You guys wouldn't know about it. Anyways, all right. So you guys feel free to, ask questions and engage in this. Is don't think that this is a didactic form of learning, which is I'm the teacher and the professor, and you guys have to all listen, and what I say is and that's that. No, this is group setting. This is very similar to group therapy, where it is most impactful and most productive if people share stories, because then people wouldn't feel alone. And if someone's dealing with certain phobias or social anxiety, and you hear like two other people that experience the same, and then people are like, oh, I feel like I can relate to someone. Okay, so this is that type of setting. All right. Okay, so if we don't have anyone that have any questions, concerns about what we have reviewed, we'll move into Buddhism, which is yay. And today we're gonna talk about the first noble truth. And today we're gonna do better than yesterday, because yesterday I forgot a couple of elements in the first noble truth. So all of the Buddha's teachings is compressed into the Four Noble Truths. 84,000 teachings, all in 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And a person can spend can spend a very long time. Matter of fact, their whole life studying the Four Noble Truths and practice it and meditate on it. And so let's go through the first one. And it is important. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, okay. It's in my mail. Give me 1 second here. This is the link that I posted in the assignment page, or on the links of the sacred text, the Four Noble Truths found in the sacred text. And at this time, if you'd like to access that.
I actually started reading it, and I was like saying in the chat, I was like, it's definitely very intense. Like, I have to reread this more than a few times for me to understand what he's trying to say, what the text is trying to say. So I appreciate you going over it.
Yeah, that's why you got me, right? Actually, initially, when I taught this to young students, I said, the first noble truth means life sucks. And number 2, life sucks because you want stuff. And number 3, if you don't want life to suck, stop wanting stuff. And number 4, the path to liberation is by following the Noble Eightfold Path.
That's basically it. Vulnerable.
Yeah, but it's not that simple. I made it simple for kids to like get it, and they're like, oh, well, maybe I should stop wanting to vape so much because I don't have any money to buy peach flavor. So I suffer because I want so much. The link I sent yesterday. Let me access that. So if you guys wanted to access that link right now by going on the left-hand side of your screen to see this word for word, because this is going to be very impactful as we read it. So profound. All right. So before the first noble truth, before we review that, mind you, the Buddha was a prince, and he had a very chilled life. His dad sheltered him from anything that is of suffering or anything that looks ugly in life. His dad did not want him to see it. So his dad brought in a lot of, entertainment, females, food, wine, gold, you name it. Matter of fact, when they chose his wife, the wife selection situation, they all lined up, and they basically gave them gifts and jewelry so that the Buddha can eyeball and see who is who. The one that he chose was actually the person last at the line, and she came late. And he ran out of jewelry to give her, so he had to actually took off the one ring he had on him and gave it to her. And she says, "No, Your Majesty, It is I that needs to give you something, not the other way around. So she was very different than the other gals that went before her. All right, we're not going to get into that. So the Buddha had this curiosity of what lies outside this palace. Like, I'm just curious. And so the king tried to shelter everything. And the king says, listen, if you got disease, death, get off my streets because my son's going to take a stroll down your street. So it was very well choreographed. However, not so much so. He went with his charioteer, the guy that, hit the horse and dragged his chariot out in town. And the Buddha saw the 4 sights. He saw old age, he saw decay, he saw disease, and he saw a holy man, a monk, kind of looked like me with a baking bowl. And the charioteer told him, yeah, well, that right there is leprosy. That right there is disease, and that's old age. That's what, see the wrinkly skin? That's old age, my Buddha. And yeah, that guy that's turned all pale and a bunch of flies on top of him right now, that would be death, my Buddha. And the Buddha was like, holy cow, wow, how can people live in entertainment and live as if none of these things exist? Do they not know how to end suffering? So the Buddha was very concerned about how to end suffering. So we see here that he started to develop his own experiment, right? His own theory, experiment, hypothesis, and he's going to test it out. Very similar to CBT. CBT, Buddhism, like brothers and sisters. Okay. And so the first discourse, the Dhammacappa Vattana Sutta, the Buddha expound the Four Noble Truths to his first 5 disciples. And so, all right, and I want you guys to have an open mind when we study the First Noble Truth, because you see, if you don't and you see the intensity of the First Noble Truth, you might just run off. So we teachers, very surprised people still stay in after the first and second Noble Truth, especially the first Noble Truth, because if you can get past that, you're like, shoo. Okay. The first Noble Truth, the Noble Truth of suffering. Now let's define suffering, because when we hear the word suffering, it's really heavy. And I have taught this to 80-year-olds, and they couldn't bear to grasp and accept that there is suffering in life. Okay. Could not at 80 years old. So in my mind, I'm like, well, I think you've been chilling a little too long there if you haven't seen suffering in your life. I mean, at the time of this class, you're telling me this is intense. Like, did we go through life, a little too high there, a little too drunk there, never stopped and reflected, right? So the word suffering means unpleasantness, stress, unsatisfactoriness. Okay. But stress seems to be the one that stands out the most, and most people relate to that. Stressful growing up, stressful trying to fit in, stressful trying to talk to other people, stressful trying to be accepted by other people. Dealing with teachers is stressful. All right. Having pimple is stressful. Can't eat is stressful. So you guys can replace the word suffering with stress so that it's less intense on your mind. We're trying to learn, and my job is to expand your vocabulary, knowledge, and definitions so that you don't recycle in your head suffering all the time. Suffering in Pali, the original language of the Buddha, is also known as dukkha. Dukkha. It's something that you don't want to forget. It's a very profound word. So, what now is the noble truth of suffering? Question mark. Birth is suffering. Decay is suffering. Death. Birth is stressful. Decay is stressful. Death is stressful. Sorrow is stressful. Lamentation, pain, grief, despair are suffering. not to get what one desires, like that hot girl, is suffering. In short, the 5 groups of existence are suffering. Okay. So this particular text in sacredtext.com goes in such details as to each element that I just read, so much that it's very comprehensive. I've never actually ran across a book that is this comprehensive in my previous studies. So bear with me, folks. This is a lot of fun. What now is birth? The birth of beings belonging to this or that order of beings. Their being born, their conception and springing into existence, the manifestation of the groups of existence, the arising of sense activity. This is called birth. Now let's break it down. Okay. The birth of beings belonging to this or that order of beings. Very important. This, we're going to tie this to rebirth in Buddhism. So if you still got greed, if you still got anger, and if you are ignorant of the Four Noble Truths, you will take rebirth. And the total opposite, if you can let all 3 of these things go at the moment of death, you will become a fully enlightened being. So let's say you like rebirth. You're like, yeah, being human is quite chill. I want to come back in the next realm because I really like my vapes, and hopefully I get more vapes in my next lifetime. Well, there is no guarantee you will belong to the family that you belong to now. There's no guarantee that you may have a father and a mother, or the absence of both. There is no guarantee that you will have 5 exact fingers and maybe 3. There's no guarantee that your brain will be developed the way that it is. There is no guarantee that you will belong to a favorable group of people. There is no guarantee that you will belong to a group of unfavorable people. So in this lifetime, I just so happens to be Asian, particularly Vietnamese. In the next lifetime, if I don't become enlightened in this lifetime, I may be Korean or Black or from Africa or from Nigeria or from Europe. I could be German. I could be French. I could be American. Okay. So it's pretty chill being Asian right now, and particularly Vietnamese, especially, nobody here. And so that's what that means. And, for example, I came from a royal last name of the family, and our, I don't know, great grandfather served the imperial courts for the emperor in Vietnam. And I don't know, somewhere down the line, this generational karma thing comes down the line. And then my dad became an attorney and I became an interpreter. And so we both are classified as judicial officers of the courts. So somewhere down the line, we're still stuck with this court thing, right? So, but there's no guarantee in my next life. I may be this fortunate or unfortunate and fall into a lower caste system. The caste system is widely known in the Indian Hindu philosophy. And there's even a categorization of castes that don't even exist. I mean, they're just so low in the bottom of the food chain that they're just like, you're just nothing. So that group of people in India exists. It's really wrong. The Buddha departed from this system. They're being born, their conception and springing into existence. Their conception and springing into existence. This is where we go back to studying biology and OBGYN and the fallopian tube and the egg and the sperm that swims around. And we can see that when 2 sperm try to enter an egg at the same time, there's issues. When we study XY chromosomes and alleles, we see that there's potential likely chance of issues in the reproductive stages. And this is what the Buddha meant when he said their conception and springing into existence. Okay. So, I mean, you can be born as a mermaid and you're like, the heck? Why do I not have feet? When you take the First Noble Truth very seriously, a reasonable, prudent student would ideally never want to take rebirth ever again. Not even as a once returner in the 4 stages of enlightenment. You read this and you're just like, holy crap, The Buddha said I can come back as a mermaid, half human, half mermaid. I mean, hold on, that sounds cool. That's not threatening enough. I can come back with 1 feet, hopping around like, like IHOP. When you see IHOP out there, you just think of that. And that's not cool because then you can't run marathons and you have to a fake leg, and it's bad. It's not good. It's not ideal. And I mean, this is why it's such a blessing, right? This is why Mark Zuckerberg and his wife, the pediatrician, they gave back so much after conceiving a healthy child, because they see that their conception and springing into existence was favorable versus the opposite. Okay, so we'll move on to decay. So far, we have any questions on birth is suffering? All right. Moving to decay. The decay of beings belonging to this or that order of beings, they're getting aged, frail, gray, and wrinkled. They're failing of their vital force, the wearing out of the sense. This is called decay. So we look at that paragraph and we see that getting age, frail, gray, and wrinkled. So all my young folks in here, right? People who are under 50, under 60 would be considered young. And I don't know, we got a 14-year-old in this group. I don't know, but I was quite bulletproof. I thought I was quite bulletproof up until age 25, 26 years old. And if you ever wanted to see this for yourself, which is very important, I'll wrap this up at the end when I say this is important for you to see. See it for yourself. When you see it for yourself, the age, the aging, the frail, and the wrinkled, you visit, simple, you just visit your local nursing home, or you see anyone that's really old, you realize, holy crap, this could be me. And this is going to happen. Everyone is subject to decay. Okay. The failing of their vital force. Study medicine, because our religious practice is mind and body. So might as well just get on WebMD once in a while and just look up all sorts of diseases and the failing of their vital force. When your kidneys no longer function the way that it does. When your liver can no longer function that it used to. And if you're an alcoholic, well, you might get cirrhosis and then stomach cancer, cirrhosis, and then hepatitis. Hepatitis, cirrhosis, and then cancer. Whatever, you get the point. So the wearing out of the senses, which is your eyeballs, how you see clearly now at age 60, it's gonna get a little blurry. This is called decay. And what is death? That guy right behind me, that's Stan. And Stan is a real skeleton. And I assert yesterday that I'm really obsessed with Stan, by the way. I'm very attached to Stan, especially lately, by the way. I'm very passionate about teaching death, because after you have internalized death, you can actually know how to live. Right? We live as if death is not looming around us. All right. And the way we love also sucks. This is because, your partner that is right next to you, your partners that's next to you, whoever you're laying with or loving or caring for or sleeping with, if you wake up and you see this in them, you will love them better. People in the world wouldn't take each other for granted. If have they seen the first noble truth in their partners and in themselves. Waking up with an attitude of realizing, seeing the true nature, reality of our partner, that, wow, we're really young right now, and I love you, and I realize that, you're not gonna be around here forever, and so am I. And so I'm gonna love you today like it's my last. If two people love their partners every day, and you do the best you can in that day as if it is your last, then we wouldn't have regrets, right? Regrets, resentments. And so, big, ooh, my laptop. So there's like this big philosophy with death and how profound it is when it comes to fully live in the present moment and the quality of life, truly. Um, and yesterday I shared I had this one girlfriend way back in the day before becoming a monk. Um, when she left for work on a Saturday and I spent the night, and when she kissed me in the morning to go to work at a nursing home, it was a kiss unlike any other. It was a very memorable kiss. It was like kiss and then pretend like like we're gonna have an earthquake or something, and we might split the earth in half, and you're on the other side, I'm on this side, might never see you again type kiss. And I was just like, wow. Now I wonder what she has reflected to treat me that way. And so, before becoming a monk, I actually knew what it was like to know what actual true love is. And hopefully people internalize that, and treat each other that way. Give a kiss like any other, give a hug like unlike any other, write that one note before you leave the house, and don't think that people are just going to loom around forever. What is death? The parting and vanishing of beings out of this or that order of beings. Parting and vanishing of beings. Parting. Departing. When your loved ones depart away from you. Vanishing of beings. So right now in Ukraine, they're like shooting bombs and torpedoes and all these things over there right now. And people vanish. You stand at the wrong place at the wrong time, and this torpedo comes, this missile comes into the building, you're instantly cremated. Vanishing of beings. Their destruction, disappearance, death, the completion of their life period, the completion of your life period, the remaining balance of your natural life. Dissolution of the groups of existence, the discarding of the body. This is called death. So if you can conquer death, right? I think you're going to be really limitless in life. This is something that is certain, and this is something that we know for sure is going to happen. Best believe. Likewise, our world leaders have not internalized and see death clearly. I assert yesterday that, I don't know, maybe Mr. Putin should have Stan kind of chill in his office. Maybe we'll change that uniform that Stan's wearing and replace that with the Russian flag or something, make Stan look a little heroic. Because our leaders make choices resulting in the death of many and others and the untold sufferings. So I assert that they should have little reminders like this, because they see Stan, they see themselves. And once you have vanished, whatever good you did in humanity, people will remember. And whatever you did bad in humanity, people will remember. So it's important to live a life full of meaning and purpose, and to dedicate our speech, body, and mind for the benefit of humanity. All right, before moving on to sorrow, you guys have any questions on death?
How do we know when we've completely internalized death?
Well, part of my program is I encourage my students to be like social workers running around society. And that means you have to volunteer in hospitals and volunteers and go and visit funeral homes, mortuaries, talk to people, interview people. You have to get close to death as much as possible. You have to, like in Thailand, they post a lot of pictures of a bunch of monks visiting the hospital, but they get unprecedented access to the mortuary room where in the middle of surgery this guy dies, and so they just kind of just leave the guy there with the skin stretched out, the chest stretched out, the stomach stretched out, so that the physician can go in and repair certain parts of the human body. And they invite these monks in, and the monks come in and they just look at the body and they're like, oh, wow, great. We definitely see the 32 parts of the body now. When it comes to that meditation on the 32 parts of the body, 32parts.com, if you must know. And in Sri Lanka and parts of Thailand, we monks meditate in front of active, decaying, rotting corpses, right, a couple feet away from us. Matter of fact, if you put death meditation on Google, you will see it. You will see a bunch of stands in front of monks, because our teachers and wanted us to really fully see it. This is going to be us. This is going to be you. It's not going to be as pretty. It's going to be you. I mean, just imagine the cremation process, right? Just imagine it. How does it actually work? How hot is it actually in there to melt your skin? How hot is it to disintegrate the calcium in your bone? People don't think about these things. So of course, yeah, they're like, whoa. To internalize death, you have to get close to it to see it. I have been fortunate enough to gone to, I couldn't even tell you how many funerals. And it was first in the Mahayana tradition that I shadowed with a Mahayana teacher that led me to all these funerals. And in Vietnam, the bodies there, you can smell it. They put these cotton balls in their nose and ears to prevent blood coming out. And I'm like, oh. And the Mahayana monks actually go over there and bless the body with this mutra right here. And they actually write in Chinese, certain blessings. And then there's a little flower and they put water and they bless the body. And you're like a feet away from it. And I couldn't tell you. I was looking at Venerable Quang and I was just like, are we done here? So I got to see a lot of bodies, and pretty soon I accustomed to it, got used to it. Later, 2 years ago, I jumped into a casket, gave a teaching while in the casket at a funeral home. So, I invite my students to visit me one day and sit right in front of Stan. Oh, let Stan lay in front of you. Look at Stan, touch Stan, see, I mean, when you get really close to the skeleton, it's like, oh my God, that's me. If you ever gotten, I'm falling apart. Oh, I'm falling apart. Hold on, you guys. No.
I wanted to say, guys, that just about 8 months ago, my father passed away, and it really taught me how our society views grief, and we don't address it. We don't look at our grief. We don't know what to say to other people. That just goes to show that our society, just ignores it, avoids it. Well, grief is not a choice. People are going to pass away in your life. So there is going to be a time that you are going to face it. And if you don't, then someday you will. You can't fight it. You can't ignore it, and you can't avoid it. And as the days get closer to the day that my father passed away, it's gut-wrenching. It is deep, deep sorrow, agony, and suffering. And so you can address that suffering. You can sit it and say, inhale, suffering, I know that you're here. Exhale, I sit with my suffering. What Thich Nhat Hanh would say, or some Buddhist monks say, is I have tea. I have tea with my suffering or my sorrow or what have you. So that's kind of been my experience with death and with grief. And I was the next of kin because my brother, unfortunately, is incarcerated. So I really had to grow up. And I'm not even 30, I'm 28, but I had to make some really big adult decisions. I had family coming after my father's money, which doesn't have a lot. But that's what you'll see is when people pass away, nobody knows what to do. Nobody knows what to say. Nobody's addressing their grief most of the time. And you'll have people come out like vultures for money. And usually when people do that, and I'm not going to say who did it because I don't believe they deserve that honor or should have any kind of power in our conversation. But essentially that shows true colors. If you're the person coming after someone's money when they're gone, you need to reevaluate your mind and you probably need to sit quietly with yourself. So that's at least what I've seen, my experience with grief and death and passing.
So my robe fell apart while I was giving a teaching. I didn't have my angsa, which is a tank top. You can kind of look like this, but just a thin tank top. Our original robes were from rags taken off of dead bodies, white rags taken off of dead bodies, and we would, cut it into squares, and we would dye it into leaves and branches and barks, leaves and branches to achieve the color. The first available color was orange, and an actual real monk robe, not like these commercialized ones that they make now, has blood stains on it. It has human bodily fluid stains on it that never washes off. So, it's like I look at have real robes, it like, oh, but that would be Tom's blood. Tom died a couple years ago. We you actually have a story behind your robes of how many people that you died, even if you knew stories behind them. So when we went, the color means death. The leaves that fall from the autumn season, all the spice colors. So as a monk, we internalize death every day, every morning. When we wake up, we realize we have an opportunity to change the world in some way, shape, or form, and not to play around and think that, I'm sorry.
I have a silly question. Before you left, you were gonna mention Stan, and I was gonna ask you, can we see him, or is there any legal reasons or anything that we can't see him?
No, you can see him. You can dance with him. You can, go over there and wave at him. You can wink at him. You can talk to him. You can do whatever you want. Stan, I put that white coat on him so that it wouldn't be so morbid. I think right now in Vietnam, when they're watching me, I think they're like, he has lost his mind. A lot of people even in Buddhism see me put Stan behind me and they're like, what's going on? Like, why is there a skeleton behind you? So after this session, I will bring you guys a little bit closer to Stan, and you guys can see him in details. I will drag this whole laptop over there in details, like especially his teeth. When you see his teeth, you realize he's real, because everything else kind of like, oh yeah, we've seen that before. You've seen like models of like skeletons before, and I didn't believe it until it came from Bay Area Wellness right here, 3600 First Avenue, Dr. David Preston, who is a very prolific physician, chiropractic physician, and ARNP. So when a dual board certified doctor that's been in the city for 50 years of practice tell you this guy's real, this guy's real. He has no reason to lie to me. Mind you, Dr. David Preston also signed off on a lot of my medical charts and cleared the way for me to go into the academy back in the day. So I trust this man with my life. You'll get to see him. He's pretty cool. I've actually had fantasies of putting him in my bed so I can wake up and look at him, and I'm like, oh, good morning, Stan. But I think for my training now, I think I'm pretty comfortable with my own death. I don't think that's necessary. But for any student that like to get close to internalized death, post recommendation that I gave above, Halloween time, get yourself a fake skeleton and go ahead, put them in your room. Actually, put the skeleton in between you and your partner. Dress them up, have fun with it, and remind yourself, this is you, this is your partner, this is everyone in the family. And anyone can cease to stop breathing at any point in time. Just study medicine, you will know how many things can go wrong in the human body at the time of this talk. So I hope that answers that question. The subject of death can actually drag a whole year in teachings, death and dying perspectives. And when you fully meditate the right way, or however, through diligent practice, you can actually predict your own death. Our previous arahants, Ajahn Mun, Ajahn Lee, Ajahn Mun, became a fully enlightened being. And the day of his death, it was like this wonderful story everybody wants to hear. He got some sort of it was similar to like a Zika virus. Some kind of mosquito bit him, and it was, the disease will come to my mind here shortly. But he told his disciple, he says, let's go. I want to go and pay some respect to the Buddha. Give me my angsa. Well, no, my sangati, which is the third outer robe. It's a big square piece that drapes down. You see it amongst ceremonials. And they helped him up the steps towards the temple. He took 3 prostrations, and on his 3rd prostration, he did not get back up. And his students who helped him they all looked at each other like, uh-oh. And they gently put their finger where his nostrils were, and he was not breathing. So Ajahn Mun was able to predict even down to the time of his death. It was pretty cool. You keep it with meditation, and you will know when your vital force is going. Yeah, all your senses start going. You ever been under anesthesia? I have. I love being under anesthesia. And like, as soon as the anesthesiologist says, you ready? Here we go. And they squeeze, and you see that white fluid go into the IV. You're done, dude. You are dead. And that's what I tell myself with all the procedures I've had. And I'm just like, yeah, wonderful. And you wake up and you realize, oh, you didn't die after all. But moments before you die, your senses start to go. You can't hear, you can't see, things start blurring out. So in that propofol or whatever, I forgot what's that thing's called, but the medicine that they give you in the IV, like I started to see like white cloud in my face, and I was like everything's distancing. It's like you lost touch with reality. Like people's voices, the nurse, the doctors, the way how they communicate is really clear right now, until it starts to fade. So yeah, anyways, all right, let's move on to the next subject rather than dragging this death thing on. Hey, give me 1 second real quick. This is a rare interruption. Yeah, Tifu? Yeah, Bum? Yeah, Ro, yeah. Okay, yeah. Done. All right. Sorrow. We move on to sorrow. The sorrow arising through this or that loss or misfortune, which one encounters, the worrying oneself, the state of being alarmed, inward sorrow, inward woe. This is called sorrow. I think everyone knows what sorrow means. I don't think I need to expand on that. Right? Sadness, supreme state of sadness. Lamentation. Through this or that loss of misfortune which befalls one is wail and lament, wailing and lamenting, the state of woe and lamentation. This is called lamentation. We have any Questions on lamentation and sorrow? Okay. What is pain? The bodily pain and unpleasantness, the painful and unpleasant feeling produced by bodily contact. This is called pain. Grief, the mental pain and unpleasantness, the painful and unpleasant feeling produced by mental contact. This is called grief. When we get into Vipassana meditation, insight meditation, you guys will learn what to do with pain and to see the true nature of reality of pain and not to make it your pain, possession of it, my pain. Why am I in pain? This sucks because I have pain. So you're compounding your suffering on top of the existence of the pain because it is the body's job to produce pain, right? So just see it for what it is. And also, we will also study Vedana. Vedana is sensations. It's rooted in the 4 foundations of mindfulness, of insight meditation. What is despair? Distress and despair arising due to this or that loss or misfortune which one encounters. Distressful and desperation. This is called despair. I cited the leading cause of suicide is between 15 and 24 years old, citing accumulated despair in one's life. Excuse me. Any questions on pain, grief, and despair? Five seconds.
Questions? No. Just I have my own experience. Kind of goes with what Val was talking about earlier. If that's okay, I can add that into.
Yeah. Just speak up a little bit. You got some low volume, but yeah, go ahead, Sam.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I was saying for like going through like suffering, like death, just all that stuff. Actually, my parent died when I was like 3, and growing up, I saw my mother a lot of mental trauma. She was just really just not there. She was just really distraught as a person. So I really didn't have like parents taking care of me. Kind of was just always doing my thing. I kind of just lived home, and I was angry a lot throughout my life growing up because I didn't understand why everyone had a dad, but mine had a lot of personalization was put in myself. I just didn't understand. So like once I really started getting into like philosophy, Buddhism, stuff started really kind of clicking. It was just hard for me in the beginning because I saw suffering at a very young age. I just didn't understand anything.
Yeah. So this is why we have to use the best available science. Like, okay, now this goes back to Martha about the science of well-being so that we don't accumulate the level of despairness in our life. Okay. You got to live life intelligently, and you have to live life skillfully in order to avoid despair. With enough despair, you'll take your life, simply put. You always got to have something to look forward to. Eat right, exercise, everything available we know in science that tells us this is going to work out and this is going to help you live a long, happy, healthy life. Longevity, aging gracefully. Okay. We conclude with the last paragraph in studying the first. Well, actually, no. Matter of fact, geez, I forgot to read the 5 groups of existence. I'll do that next week to both classes on Saturday and Sundays because it's a lot. This is very in-depth and requires me to explain. And what is the suffering of not getting what one desires? To being subject to birth, there comes the desire. Oh, that we were not subject to birth. Oh, that no new birth was before us. subject to decay, disease, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. The desire comes to them. Oh, that we were not subject to these things. Oh, that these things were not before us. But this cannot be got by mere desiring, and not to get what one desire is suffering. So that's part of the first noble truth. And I like for everyone to, when you have time, meditate on these elements. Now, one could assert and ask, wow, this is really depressing to hear. But no, it's actually not. Because this is the true nature of reality of life. This is what's going to happen to all of us. We dealing with it right now head on gives you strength, gives you courage to fully live, but also know what's looming around the corner, right? You can actually prevent a lot of these things with a positive mindset, positive belief. You can prevent a lot of these things by eating right, trying to go vegetarian, okay? Something to look forward to avoid sorrow. You know, sleep right, avoid decay. You know, birth, well, you're already here, so you can't avoid that. But in regards to decay, getting aged, frail, wrinkled, if you're not exercising, you're going to be frail. Muscles are going to get weak and it's going to give out on you. Okay. Failing of your vital force, drink a lot of water, right? Everything we know according to AMA, American Medical Association, the Mayo Clinic, WebMD. You know, take certain vitamins like lutein for your eyes so that the wearing out of the senses does not occur prematurely. All right. Sorrow, lamentation, you know, learn to forgive and ask for forgiveness so that you avoid unnecessary sorrow. Okay. Pain. Well, if you were born with pain, we'll deal with it. If you don't want pain down the road, be mindful of everything that you do and what you put in your body. Okay. Mental pain, physical pain. Same thing with despair. Despair, sorrow, lamentation, which all tie into one group. All right. Any questions so far based on those statements? So the internalization, intellectual understanding, and hopefully down the road, the actual seeing for oneself the first noble truth, you now understand the true nature of life, thus giving rise to compassion to other people that you don't even know, people that cuts in front of traffic in front of you and realize that maybe his wife is giving birth. That's why he's cutting in front of you to get there. Had it ever crossed your mind? So take it easy, little one. Put down the gun. Okay. You know, when sitting on a city bus, you know, all I see is skeletons sitting next to me. Thus, compassion arises. It eliminates the need to judge. You know, oh, he's looking at me a certain way. Oh, I don't even like him. Oh, stop looking at me. You know, we're all humans and we're all subject to all of these elements. So it's best to just have compassion and understanding for our one little small world on this bus. So, you know, Buddhism teaches you how to look at the positivity even in the negative situations and in the negative aspect of life or undesirable things in life. Buddhism is all about happiness. It is the total opposite. But we first have to face and identify what the problem is and how these problems can affect us in life and our mental well-being, our mental anguish. What is peace? Peace is free from disturbing emotions. And all these things can disturb your emotions if you don't prepare for it. Just like if you live in Florida, we have hurricanes. That's the true nature of reality of living in Florida. So if we prepare you for hurricane, then you're better prepared for it. And you're like, I am happily prepared. If we don't, then you would be subject to mental anguish. You know, you would be, a hurricane comes in 5 days and you're like, I am not prepared. I have no flashlight. I have no non-perishable food. freaking out. Anything that costs you peace is too expensive. So everything we study here prepares you for meditation, a deep understanding, profound sense of understanding during the meditative process, and a true understanding of reality of life in general. Any questions so far? Questions, comments? Anything that you relate to, identified with? Yes.
Let me see here. Joel said had a question about how can you integrate death while not leading into obsessive fears or attachments? I recommended meditating on impermanence because we're all gonna leave our physical bodies. And I still meditate on impermanence, even with my father being gone.
What was the question again?
I'm sorry, I just thought of like Jeopardy. Like, can you use it in a sentence or something? Let's see here. Okay, so she said, let's see here. How can you integrate death while not leading into obsessive fears or attachments of it?
The more you study it, the more you understand it, the more you face it, the less attachment you have to it. It's also known as desensitization technique in psychology. Is that it's like, it's like someone afraid of snakes. And so the first thing we do in this modality of therapy is that we have to imagine a snake and imagine, seeing it, eventually touching it, eventually in the presence of it. And then slowly we desensitize people by, telling them, all right, right outside that door right there is a real actual snake. It's a python. And then we give them information about it. And then we're like, whenever you're ready, we'll bring it in, but we'll leave it at the door while you're 50 feet away. Then we have them open their eyes and look at the snake, and they're like, oh, great. And then subsequently, it gets closer. Then you pet the snake, and you touch the snake, and you're like, oh, he's harmless. All this fear I had about snakes was, was not true. That they're this humongous thing that goes around swallowing people. This one was friendly, and he hissed at me. So, desensitization technique. So everyone fears death, right? Everyone fears death. But when you come to me and I tell you Stan is a mile away, and you wave at Stan, and then eventually I move Stan a little closer to you, and you get to examine him, and obviously he can't move or talk to you, so he can't attack you. And you start seeing that, and then preparing you for death meditation. Slowly you see the true nature of death, and you're like, where we get ourselves in trouble with these things is that we resist and not accept. When you accept the fact that every natural condition, everything condition is subject to impermanence, you come closer to acceptance. Many people say, I don't accept that. I don't think death is real. I don't know. I refuse to accept death. I refuse to get near it. It'll come. I want to avoid it at all and any cost. So Buddhism is about dealing with things head on, dealing with pain head on, dealing with problems head on. Face it, not running away from it. The more we run away from it, the more attached we are to it. Okay. I hope that makes sense, right? Did that make sense to everyone here in this room? Yeah?
Yeah, I did.
Good. All right. It's not easy, but it's my job to make it easy. It's my job to make these things fun and easy. So, before this year concludes, hopefully I'm starting to get people wanting to come in the July and August area already. So if you guys want, you guys can join that group and coming to Florida to see me and visit me and Stan, because right now I'm just borrowing Stan. I really want to buy him, but can't afford it. And I would have to drag him everywhere with me around the world. And he's really fragile. He's been in existence of that state for probably 70 years. And so the glue of his sternum, certain parts of his body is kind of like, you can tell the glue is coming off. And it has to be a special flexible glue. It can't be like, yeah, let's go get Gorilla Glue and then glue him back on, because then once you move him, he just breaks, and then everything breaks with him. So he's under archaeological care, archaeology. He's under forensic archaeological. I can't even say it, but he's under the best care right now that I can imagine in moving him. So the opportunity to be with Stan is rare, because I mean, where are you going to find a real skeleton, a full size head to toe? So I invite everyone, when you want to learn meditation and everything in depth and know what it's like to actually meditate with a teacher with instructions and directions, to make your way down here. You know, people spend unnecessary luxury to go to Hawaii and learn absolutely nothing in Hawaii except a pina colada. And I, encourage that you guys channel your fundings to visit a good qualifying teacher. It may not even be me, but a good, authentic, qualifying teacher to teach you what you need to know, so that you take some of these good teachings with you back home, an imprint and an impression that you can use for the rest and remaining balance of your natural life, that can lead you to the path of enlightenment versus a pina colada. Any additional questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
Actually. So if someone, like you say, someone close to you just like recently died, feeling overwhelmed by the pain. So what is the best type of, I guess, answer? I'm sure meditation, right?
After someone have passed away, first and foremost, we need to realize what stage of grief we're in. According to Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, the 5 stages of grief: depression, anger, bargaining, DABDA, denial, anger, acceptance. So everyone deals with it at different levels. It doesn't really go in order per human. So learning that, you know where you are. The best type of meditation is loving kindness meditation. Loving kindness meditation. The 9 qualities of a Buddha would also help.
Yeah, metta, right? Yeah.
Metta, so that we wish ourselves well, happy, healthy, and extend that to the departed, because there are things that was not said, or we didn't conclude whatever unfinished business with them, whatever resentment, hurt, pain, and suffering that existed while they were alive. So metta is very effective in addressing unresolved grief, that energy that looms after a departed loved one leaves.
I'd recommend writing out your thoughts, writing a letter. I remember in the early months, I just one day wrote out, that I was sorry for the way that I treated my father sometimes. I definitely honored my father, but, I'm really not a Dear Diary person. I suppressed my emotions probably for almost all my life. But, even today I had to do it at the meditation center. I had a thought of, it's your fault that your dad's dead. And I was like, not on my watch. So what I did is I wrote, that it's not my fault. I tried to help my dad. But we have to remember that others are responsible for themselves. I did the best I could with my father. I tried to get him to see a doctor. He had diabetes. He wasn't on medication. He wasn't taking care of himself. And so there's only so much that you can do. So, I recommend just writing out how you're feeling. If you feel guilt, writing out about that. But in regards to grief, you really need to embrace it. It's going to be painful. It has been painful for me sometimes physically. But again, sitting in that the best that you can. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm very far from it. But again, if you sit in that grief, usually I feel better because I cry it out and I allow myself to cry. and I allow myself to be sad. But what we want to work on is making sure that we're not dwelling in that sadness and that we're in a state of grief all the time, because I was doing that as well. So just being mindful about where you're at with your grief. And like he said, you know, there's 5 stages, and grief is not linear. It's going to be up and down and up and down. And some days are going to be, you're kind of coasting, and other days you're just going to be like, what the heck? You know, like, I don't want to grieve. You know, there's definitely moments where I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this anymore. But those are moments where you have to say that it's okay and you're going to get through it. Oh my God, venerable. Oh my God.
I understand. I think another thing I've been doing to add to journaling and meditating as well is sometimes I'll actually find a quiet place and say what you're going to feel. And that's something I actually make tea, one for me and then one for my dad, even though he's not physically here. And I go out and I would think about it and send some positive thoughts as we, and then I pour the tea on the ground where I was sitting.
Yeah, that's great. I had to do that today. I essentially was going to have a panic attack after coming home from, I attended Phoenix Shambhala Meditation Center, and Shambhala, for those that are listening, is under the Tibetan, and yeah, I felt like I was going to have a panic attack. I didn't have medication for that on hand, so I was just like, what's going to help you? You know, so I went to the park, I sat under a tree, and I journaled about just the worry, the fear. You know, years from now, I'm want to become an ordained Buddhist nun. That means I'm going to have to let go of a lot that I've just been living in society. But yeah, I wrote out however I felt, kind of cried a little bit, and then I was okay. And sometimes it's not that simple, you know, sometimes it's more complicated. But again, we need to address grief. It sucks, I know, but it needs to be done.
It
Like any way it's positive when thinking.
Yeah.
it could take years, you know, because like everyone goes through it. There's the unfulfilled hope, unfulfilled expectations and hope when they were still alive, and there were the to-do list that was never done. That's, you know, there's a lot of regret, resentment, anger, not fair, you know. So it helps to also seek out a grief counselor too. And also you can visit your local mortuary or funeral home, and some of them have grief counseling for free. And there's a lot of free resources. So just visit psychologytoday.com, and even, or call like the certain hotlines. I mean, I don't know, just have fun. I would probably call like the National Suicide Hotline and just be like, I'm not suicidal. I just want to know if there's any free grief counseling. So it's been a while since I got back to those resources. Or you can Google it, you know. It really helps to use all of the available resources we have to deal with grief. Yeah, I know it took me a long time, like 5 years, to get over my grandmother's passing and best friend. They were a year apart. So. Okay, we have any additional questions, concerns, or comments regarding today's class? About Stan?
Hi.
Yes.
Hi. I'm new, so I really agree with the whole process of grieving, because I personally lost my great grandma. I was very close to her. She always had like stories and stuff. So I really agree with that. And also I also regret, because like I would like always wish that I could talk to her more before like she passed and stuff like that. So I think the lesson, like, I guess, really opened me a lot more. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, let me tell you guys this too. I forgot to tell you guys this. Their spirits kind of linger around too, after they pass. For how long, we don't really know. So when you talk to them, wherever you are, at a place, at the beach or park or something like that, they can hear you. They know.
Mhm.
And when you write letters and stuff like that, they know. But at the same time, we also want to remind ourselves, if they are still living, what would they want you to do? Would they want you to sit in bed all day crying and grieving? You know, how would they would want you to live your life? That's the other thing that I wanted to emphasize when it comes to courage and honoring one's life. You know.
Yes, I totally agree.
It's really easy falling into the depression cycle, but just remember that, you know, if they were still alive, whatever that is unfinished, you can still finish them. You can still take steps to honor that, or in honor of that person, take steps, you know, for that particular project or thing.
His dog is very cute.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so for the new people that joined us, everyone that's new, let me see if what's his name still here. Is what was it? Was it David? Right, the one that joined us earlier. Was his name David? Val got his name. Adam? No, it was Adam, right? It was Adam, not David. So for
Me?
no, it was Adam. It was a younger
Okay.
teen that was in here. So people who are new that's joining us, recommend that you guys try to bring up the speed with the CBT and studying the Four Noble Truth. All of the resources available on the left-hand side on the assignment page. Seems like every week seems like every day we're getting new people. And so Val, you can also help out in watching out for new people joining us and gently have them introduce themselves onto the group chat and remind them if I don't catch it, to let them know about the assignments and links so that they can catch up, so they can get with the program as fast as possible, so that they don't feel way too behind or lost in our discussion and study. Okay. So at this time, anyone have any suggestions, comments, concerns before we conclude our session at 9 p.m.? Anyone have any suggestions on what you'd like to study in the near foreseeable future? Because I try to tailor my program to individual needs as much as possible. Okay, for people that's observing on TikTok, my Discord is in the Instagram link or on the TikTok link above. We reconvene 7 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, New York time. Okay. Any last remarks from any of the students for the group?
Yeah, I do. I have one. So when we test out the CBT with other people talking, like to tell those experiences as well.
You had low volume. Can you repeat that?
Yeah. I was saying that for the CBT methods, and we use that to help others, like outside the group, would you like us to share those experiences on here as well?
Yeah, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, they feel comfortable sharing. Sharing of stories is very impactful in the group setting because, again, everyone can relate to some way, shape, or form, rather than feeling that their problem is an isolated problem. You know, we humans have a lot of issues, and it's good to talk about them so that we can identify it together and work on it together as a whole.
Gotcha.
Some last remarks. I realize that this is a a good and small, supportive, loving, caring, compassionate community that we have. And so I just wanted to let everyone know that you are all a part of this community of mine, of us. This is actually for you guys. And I realize that there are all sorts of different walks of life that comes into this Discord. The nature and scope of Discord is, to hang out, to meet and greet, and get things done productively, and that it has suffice. So you guys know that when you feel lost in life, and when you feel unloved, when you feel I don't know what to do, this community is for you. And I should have done this a year ago, way back when, but I caution myself not to get too involved in social media. But I realize this is now the new digital age, and this is now the new digital sangha of what we call it, digital sangha. Sangha means uh, a community, right? A spiritual community. So I failed to mention this in previous talks, and I just want to let everyone know that you have a community to resort to ask for advice, questions, concerns, to tell us about your problems, not to hold things in, to process them, process your grief, anger, hurt, resentment. Most 99% of people discovered me via TikTok because one of those videos spoke to you in some way, shape, or form. Your heart was moved. As a direct result of that, you reached out. And so this is where, time to step towards the howling wind with your bare chest and face all the problems that we have been running away from for a long time. And so, my job is and everyone here is on the same page at helping each other through the most trying and challenging times of our lives, once and for all, uprooting the root cause of the problem. I have projectively less than 10 months. I don't know, maybe I would say less than 14 months with all of you. So I wanted, to to help you solve as much as problems as much as possible. So that you all can be self-reliant on yourself. It's good to have a teacher, but soon the teacher have to depart within his own projects. And when you are self-reliant, you stand firm. The big tall tree that you are, with these roots that are very deep. And when the storm comes, it cannot uproot your tree. You are a very solid rock, unmoved by what is good and unmoved by anything that is negative in your life. So subsequently, these are the goals that I have for all of you, which is essentially trying to make you as bulletproof as possible through life's storm. So at this time, if we don't have any additional comments, discussion, recommendation, or suggestions, I'd like to conclude tonight's Discord. Again, every time when it gets to that 9 o'clock, and I tell people you are potentially dismissed. If you have anything to do on a Sunday, the remaining balance of your Sunday, they all just stick around. Just like yesterday, a lot of people stuck around for another hour of talk and discussion. But I, however, have been neglecting my own projects. So I realize everyone wants to stick around and absorb some more good stuff. But at this time, the good stuff would lie in your CBT book. And if you don't have the book, you can send me an email to get the PDF version, or the links also on the assignment and links page. Valerie's been very essential at assisting when I'm not present on the Discord. And so go back to the, try to really fully grasp everything from chapter 1 to chapter 4 in CBT. This is very stimulating session, as always. But try to be independent through self-directed studies. This is part of the self-reliant program, the rapid realization program. Okay.
Follow me on Instagram, because I'm focusing more on helping Ukraine rather than getting caught up in the news. I honestly have not been looking at the news. I unfortunately do have PTSD, so I need to be very mindful about the violence that I see, because it can be very triggering. But I do speak a lot about social justice issues in regards to the Black and brown culture. I am half Mexican, and I'm also learning Spanish so that I can be fluent to speak to my people and community. I am starting to have friends and family that are sharing information as to where you can donate to help any of the people or the children in Ukraine. So, although there is a lot of suffering, I'm not saying we don't acknowledge their suffering. I'm just stating that, let's take the focus off of that and how can we help? How can we help them heal?
Very good. Thank you, Val.
Well said. Thank you, Val. Thank you, Trudeau. I will take my leave. It was a great session.
I like that room of yours. I can meditate in that room all day, every day with that purple. I got purple robes. Listen, I got purple robes. You know, I got purple robes. I wear them next time.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll see you next Sunday. All right, man.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
Enjoy, everybody. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. So you guys got plenty of homework over there. So let's jump to it. Let's get some things done and let's have fun with this thing next Saturday. And also throughout this week, I occasionally hop on Discord to answer any questions that you may have for the assignments or any links. So just feel free to send me a private message, or if anyone here needs a one-on-one session. So, Sam, you almost look like somebody else. Not used to seeing that ponytail.
Yeah, I know. It looks like I have all my hair going. Trust me, it's here.
Everyone have a wonderful rest of your weekend and a victorious week ahead as we set new intentions, our intentions for the week ahead. Okay, take care. People on TikTok, you guys can get with me on my Instagram, Ven_TRI_DAO, Ven Gdao. So you can check back to the original page on TikTok to find the links. But I'm going to conclude this. Been sitting here, have no back support, so my back's hurting. So let me end this YouTube.